guys, and welcome to the Twisted Siblings podcast. This is episode 8. Every time we add an episode on, I'm always like, I can't believe we're at 8 episodes already, which means it's been going 8 weeks. I'm so excited for when we're like celebrating our 1 year anniversary. Today we are... Kelly's going to be telling the story today. So obviously if you haven't been listening, then we do alternate weeks, and today is Kelly's turn. If you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star review. It takes a matter of seconds, it's free, and it really does help us when it comes to wherever you're listening to the podcast. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, or any major podcast platforms. We also do have Instagram, and that's where we post our updates when our episodes are live, and we go live every Monday morning, 7 a.m. So, that being said, take it away, Kelly. What have we got today?
So today we're doing an episode about Colleen Harris. Have you heard about her?
I haven't, no.
No, I don't think she is that well known. When I was trying to do the research, it was quite hard to find out anything about her sort of earlier life. Pretty much all the information I can find out is sort of from a bit later on. But I shall tell the story and you shall find out.
UK, America, where are we based?
America.
Okay, fine. Oh, I'm excited.
So, you ready?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay. So, Colleen Harris was described as a loving grandma. She was affectionately known to her grandchildren as Grandma Cookie. In 1986, after the death of her second husband, Colleen met and rekindled a childhood romance with Bob Harris. In 1990, 4 years after dating, the pair married and were said to have a very happy life. Bob worked as an administrator, and Colleen had been left her second husband's surveying business, which was quite successful. So together, I think it was said that they sort of had an estate worth about $1 million. So they had a lovely house in California, and after 20 years of being together, the pair decided to retire from work, and they spent their time volunteering for sort of various organisations. I think Bob was like a volunteered for like the sheriff, was a volunteer sheriff, and also did volunteering as like an umpire for like baseball matches.
Okay.
And I think they sort of went to other countries to do volunteering, and it was said that they were both sort of always wanting to do something, and they were both seen as very lovely people.
A blessed life, it sounds.
It does sound a lovely life. However, in 2013, in January, attorney David Weiner, I think it is, received a call from Colleen, and she had told him that her husband, Bob Harris, was dead. David, the attorney, phoned the police, who were immediately dispatched to the address. So when they arrived at the property, police see Colleen within inside the premises. They could see her walking around. I did read some sources that said that she was just inside washing up, but that was only from one source, so I'm not 100% how true that is. But when they see her, they call her outside and ask her if they can sort of explain, if she can explain what's going on, because the information that they got over the phone was really limited. When they were speaking to the attorney, I think he was declining to answer many questions and just said, I'm not there, I don't really know what's going on, you need to get round there. So Colleen explains to the police that her husband Bob is dead. He's in their bed. She tells the police that she doesn't know what happened, but she said that she'd seen some blood up there and she covered his body with a blanket. So when they enter the property, they find Bob Harris dead in the couple's bed. Blood was splattered all up the walls and all on the floors, and half of his face was missing, and he had a shotgun laying beside him. Colleen tells the police that she thinks her husband killed himself, but she says she has no recollection of any of the day's events. And she describes it as like a grey fog, and says that her last memory was the night before, when her and her husband had brought down the Christmas decorations.
So she doesn't remember anything from the day?
She says she cannot remember anything at all. She literally just has no recollection. That's what she says. It's like a grey fog. She has no memories at all. So the police are a bit suspicious. They think that's a bit of an odd thing to happen. And when they're looking at the crime scene, they also become more suspicious because what they're seeing doesn't really match what Colleen is telling them happened. So they noticed that the gunshot to Bob's face was actually quite large and there was gunshot residue there as well. So they said that basically the gun couldn't have been sort of pressed right up against his face. It would have needed to have been like a few inches away, which you wouldn't tend to do if you were going to shoot yourself. You'd rest it against your face.
Of course, and also with a shotgun, would you be able to hold it that far away from you?
Probably not, because they're quite long, aren't they?
I think so. I'm not.
Yeah.
Obviously,
You'd need to sort of do some sort of weird gymnastic skills there, I think, to be able to place it where it was. And the police also noticed that rigor mortis has well and truly begun to set in, so they know that he's been dead for quite a while, even though Colleen is saying that this is something that she thinks has only just happened.
Yeah, because how many hours do you have until rigor mortis sets in? Do you know?
I don't actually know.
Wait, I'm going to find out. So it says rigor mortis appears approximately 2 hours after death in the muscles of the face, progresses to the limbs over the next few hours, completing between 6 to 8 hours after death. Rigor mortis then stays for another 12 hours till 24 hours after death and then disappears. So that is how they probably know of the time frame.
Yeah, so they were saying that rigor mortis had already set in everywhere, so they knew that he must have been dead for like a few hours already.
At least, yeah, because...
Yeah, so why 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, so why hasn't she called? Because it starts at 2 and then finishes at 24, so it had definitely been at least 2 hours, so why hadn't she called before?
Yeah, so there's something a little bit suspicious going on there. So the police obviously begin an investigation and they bring Colleen in for questioning because of how she's being. They also commented on like how her demeanour was when she was being questioned in the police station. So she didn't seem like sort of a grieving wife. She was really relaxed and calm, and she was even said to be just sitting there with her feet up on the chair, leaning back while being questioned. And she also underwent a medical examination and injuries were found to her chest and fingers, which correlated with kickback injuries from firing a gun at close range. So obviously she becomes the main suspect in the murder of Bob. Police continue their investigation and shockingly learn that in 1985, the exact same scene had played out where Colleen had shot and killed her second husband, James Batten, in exactly the same bedroom that Bob had been found in.
No.
Like, this woman is crazy.
Wow. Oh my God. But wait, why was she free? So they obviously didn't... She got away with it then? Or no?
So she did. She did get away with the second one, with her second husband. So what happened in 1985, basically exactly the sort of same thing played out. Colleen called the police and reported the death of her husband, stating that she didn't know what happened. She thinks she might have shot him, but she couldn't remember. She couldn't remember anything that had happened. However, she did then later allege that it was done in self-defence after her husband had become violent and tried to sexually abuse her. And she said that she was filing for divorce, so he had become angry with her. And so she'd shot him and killed him in self-defence. There was actually a trial and she was accused of murder but was acquitted of all charges.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
How did you get away with that? That makes no sense.
I know.
Just by saying that it was self-defence.
I know, with no sort of, I don't think there was any like prior history of abuse or any sort of violence between this couple either.
And they both oh no, that's this couple. I was going to say they both.
But you would think as well, yeah, you'd think after you'd done that and you'd been luckily, well, I guess that's why she did it, because she thought, oh, I've got away with it once, I can do it again. But God, you're really pushing your luck there, aren't you? So
that is wild.
I know. Police continue their investigation into Bob's murder and speak to sort of family and friends and learn that Colleen and Bob's marriage had not actually been the happy marriage that it had been portrayed to be, especially not recently. So in 2012, Bob had actually began an affair with a medical student he'd met while volunteering in Siberia. And Colleen had found out about the affair and had obviously become upset. And Bob's daughter says that their marriage had become unhappy and Bob had actually filed for divorce in September 2012. So after 2 months of being separated, Colleen convinced Bob to move back in with her. She was going into hospital for a hip replacement and she was saying that she needed him to sort of come and live in the house and help her to recover because there was lots of things that she wouldn't be able to do. So he did actually agree to move in, and that's when he was there in the house. He did tell his daughter that it was only going to be temporary until Colleen had recovered, but I'm not sure whether this is something that Colleen knew or whether she didn't want to believe, because his daughter has given statements saying that Colleen had never admitted to anyone that he'd actually left in the first place, or that there was sort of any problems with their marriage, or that he'd moved out of the house, or that he had left her. And then just the night before Bob's body was found, Colleen had become upset and texted Bob's daughter saying that she'd just caught him on the phone to the woman he'd been having an affair with. So we've definitely got motive there, haven't we?
Yeah, that's so silly to then try and lie about it, because the police are obviously going to go through your phone.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, that is insane in the membrane, honestly.
Yeah, but police obviously continue their search and they get search warrants for the house. And when they're looking, they uncover sort of a lot of journals that belong to Colleen, and some of them supposedly date back to 1980. In her journal, she portrays herself as being a loving, doting wife. But the police, when they're reading through these, they actually believe that they were all fabricated and that she'd sort of done this before, as premeditated to help her case, because a lot of the entries were not dated, and those that were not in chronological order. So they think that she's just written some things in there and then tried to date them to make it look like she'd done some stuff in the past, like some of them were in the past.
Oh my God.
But it hadn't actually happened. And they also obtain her phone records, and the actual day that Bob's body was discovered, they used GPS data and learned that Colleen actually had driven 3 hours away to visit her son in San Francisco and back. And on the way back, her car.
Was that his son as well, or was it her son?
No. So they both had children, but they were both from previous marriages.
Fine.
So this was her son. And she went to visit him in San Francisco, and on the way back, she actually broke down. So she had to call AAA, which I think is our version of AA. To get somebody out to help her, and police actually used this evidence to disprove Colleen's claims of memory loss. The grey fog that she said, saying that she couldn't recall anything that happened the whole day and could only remember from the night before.
Yeah, you managed to call AAA.
Yeah, you managed to drive, and they actually get the recordings of her phone in AAA as well, and she's speaking very coherently and is making a lot of sense, and she knows what she's talking about. So they're just saying well, how can you have completely forgot that you drove to San Francisco and back, right? And you sounded fine when you were on the phone. So no, they've got all of this evidence now, and it's pretty clear that she's done it. So the case went to trial, where she was accused of murder, and after just 2 hours of deliberation, this time she wasn't so lucky, and the jury found Colleen guilty of first-degree murder. So at the age of 73, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 50 years. But she died in July 22 when she was age 80. But it's just the whole thing is just mad. You don't ever think of somebody like a grandma as being a killer, do you? I think when I was looking, I was like, oh my gosh, her grandkids called her Grandma Cookie, and she's just out there murdering people. Grandma
Cookie. I feel like Grandma Cookie rings a bell to me.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's absolutely wild. And also to call your husband and then just take a trip. These people have no, are they not worried that someone's going to find a dead body in their house?
I know. Unless she was hoping that maybe they would when she was gone, and then she could say that she wasn't there. But it just, I mean, none of it's really rationally thought out. I feel like she just thought she could get away with it again this time because she got away with one before.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow, you think of grandmas as well as really loving, nurturing, kind.
Like little sweet old ladies, don't you?
Yeah, frail. Wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't hurt a fly, and she's just out here committing murder. Also, what scares me is that she murdered her ex-husband, and then she went on to be a grandma. So she went on to look after children and be around kids and stuff, knowing what she did. Like, if you were aware of that, obviously you just wouldn't want anyone like that near your kids.
I know, and I wonder how her kids feel about it all now, because her second husband that she killed was actually the father of her children. So I couldn't see anything particularly about sort of how they feel about her now, but I should imagine it would be quite traumatising to know that your mum had killed your dad and then gone on to kill somebody else as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, because they wouldn't have known for so many years, and then... Oh, wow. How did she die in prison? Do you know?
I don't know. She just died of old age. She was 80. So.
Okay, fine. That's too kind. But that is, yeah, that's crazy. Oh, dear. The same. You don't want to get on the wrong side of her. It's always a woman scorned, isn't it?
Yeah, always a woman scorned.
Scorned. I wonder what the first husband did.
Oh, well, he was lucky. He got away. It's like that rhyme, you know, with Henry VIII. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived.
Oh,
He's like the one surviving one.
The previous husband, then. I wonder what he did to make her snap.
Oh, the middle one. I don't know. It says that she had filed for divorce, but whether or not that's the case, because that seemed to be the trigger for the next one as well, didn't it, for Bob? He filed for divorce.
Part of her plan, though.
And then she killed him.
Well, crazy. That was another crazy story. It doesn't, when I hear these stories, especially when it comes to like husband and wife, it never surprises me, because you do hear it so often when someone's cheated or someone's trying to leave someone. But like, to result in murder is just excessive.
I know. Just let them leave.
I know, right? But yeah, so same time next week for my story. And I do always say, but if you do have any recommendations of any true crime cases, so it can be solved or unsolved, it could be missing, murdered, it can be anything true crime related. If there's anything you want us to cover, something that we might not have researched before, then make sure you send us a message across on Instagram, which is where you can contact us. And then, of course, like I said at the beginning, please leave us a 5-star review. It really doesn't take long, but it does help us. It helps us continue. And we will be back same time next week, 7 a.m. on a Monday, so that you can listen to us on your way to work or wherever you're going. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcast. But I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.